You are now tuning in to the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast, the #1 source for unfiltered truth in bodybuilding with your host, Elon Muscular. This podcast is sponsored by MarketRex, web design and marketing automation for online coaches. If you're an online coach that is operating out of your Instagram DMs, a Google form on your Linktree, or worse, a Gmail link in your bio, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Maybe you have a website, but it kind of sucks and it's not integrated into a greater marketing strategy. Think about all the clients who would be interested in working with you, but haven't quite crossed the line of contacting you because you have not made the process smooth enough for them. At MarketRex, we create high converting websites, landing pages, lead magnets, and email marketing flows to help online coaches get more clients on autopilot so that you can focus on serving your clients and doing what you love. Head over to marketrex.co to book a free consultation call to learn more about how we can help scale your coaching business. What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 22 of the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. I'm here with my close personal friend, Brendan Morgan. Brendan is a life coach, and he's been having awesome transformations with a lot of the guys that he's been coaching and ladies too. And I've always been skeptical of life coaches. You see people marketing online, you get hit with an ad or something, or everyone knows about Tony Robbins and different life coaches like that. And you start to think like, what are these people really contributing? Like, why can somebody help you, teach you how to live your life? Like, who are you to tell me how to live? That's kind of how I've always looked at it. But, I know Brendan on a personal level. And when he got into life coaching, he started to explain to me a little bit more about, the transformations that he's been having and what he's been actually doing and his message behind the life coaching. And I really like what Brendan does because it's not that your typical life coaching where it's like woo-woo, like law of attraction stuff, teaching you how to, live a better life by, attracting abundance. He actually helps people with practical steps. And that's what I want to, get out of Brendan today and help you guys understand how you can improve your lives with actual, real, actionable knowledge, just like I, get from the bodybuilding people and the, business coaches that I have on here. So welcome to the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast, Brendan.
Thanks, Elon. It's so good to be here, man. I love the podcast. So much value in every single episode. So I hope that I can contribute what I have to offer as well.
Awesome. So I guess let's just jump right into it. Let's say that I sign up for your life coaching. Well, first of all, let's take a step back. How did you get into life coaching, and like what made you decide that you wanted to, help people improve their lives in that way?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the journey, I would say, started back when I was 21 through yoga. I did my yoga teacher training, and that was kind of my first foray into personal development. It was a framework which I was using to become a better person effectively. And obviously there's like a really physical practice to it. It was a great way for me to connect with my physical body. And the philosophy behind it, I found was really helpful for attaining peace in my life. So I began sharing that with people, right? And then at the beginning of the pandemic, I started hosting an online support group for free because I knew that everybody was feeling really isolated. I wanted to give people an opportunity for human connection. I know how important that is when people are locked up in their house with like their significant other, their roommate, their family. Like shit can get really heavy, and like you just hear like the echoes of your own voice in your head constantly. So I just wanted to give people a forum to like literally talk about whatever was going on in their life. And it was really impactful. Some people like were just coming to me saying like how grateful they were for this experience, and like, same thing, how they just like, they haven't seen anybody in months and whatever. And that is what ended up yielding my first clients. So, like this life coaching practice is basically a culmination of everything that I've been doing for my entire life. And most recently, professionally, I was working in project management for a creative agency in New York. And the agency tanked at the beginning of the pandemic. They folded. We're, a live events based agency. And that came at a really serendipitous time because, I've been looking at the work that I was doing and these skills that I was using to help these big corporate conglomerates sell shit that I didn't care about at all. And I was looking at where I was funneling my efforts, and I said, well, I can just take this pretty much same exact framework, these project management tools and skill sets, and apply them to people and help them to improve their lives and execute on their goals. So that's pretty much how I got into it. And it's just taken off from there. I went from just working on a strictly referral basis to launching the business online, and things have really taken off.
So let's say that what kind of person comes to you needing life coaching, and how do you actually go about helping them? What do you actually help people with?
So my clients right now are super diverse, and I would say what people come to me for generally is they are seeking fulfillment and peace. There are plenty of life coaches out there who are going to tell you about how to get rich, whatever, how to find love, how to do this, how to do that, who are super niche in whatever their field is. I am a holistic and integrated coach where we address all different areas of life. So effectively, I have an intake form. When you sign up for life coaching, we do a 30-minute consultation call. And before we do that call, I have everybody fill out this form. And basically, it goes through the 8 disciplines of personal development: body, mind, environment, social life, career, money, love, and spirituality. And basically, it's a self-assessment. You go through it, you tell me how you're doing in each one of those areas, tell me what you're hoping to get out of coaching. And, everybody's coming to me with different symptoms, I would say. But the fundamentals remain the same. So if these people are coming to me because they are not feeling fulfilled, right? They're not feeling like they're successful, they're not tapped into their potential, whatever it is, they want more out of life, right? There's, a few key things that are so simple. And that's what I tell them up front. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not going to wave a magic wand and make your problems go away. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm going to offer you the tools, and I'm going to offer you the structure in order to start executing on your goals. And I will do it with you. I'm fully here to support you. But it's really just about fundamentals and baby steps. So for instance, some of those things, right? What we get started with immediately, like I said, the first thing on those 8 disciplines is body, physical health. What does your diet look like? What does your sleep look like? Your exercise? Are you drinking enough water? 4 really simple things that damn, everybody knows it, right? It's first grade, super simple. And it's I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a personal trainer. I'm, familiar with all this stuff. I've done my research, I'm a yoga instructor. So through that framework, I delved into physical health and whatnot. But people just aren't taking care of themselves, and the root of so many problems, mental problems or relationship problems or whatever it may be, often stem from neglecting the physical body. So that's always where we start.
Okay. And then where do you move on from there? So how would you, I do bodybuilding coaching, right? So if you come to me, I'm going to tell you, okay, this is strictly what we have to do. These workouts, these diets, you have to follow this to a T, and check in with me. And I will make sure that you're getting your progress on a straight path to your goal. And everything is very, goal structured. Everything is very, scientific, mathematical, right? So how do you make sure that somebody's taking care of their body without, do you provide people with a certain structure, or do you just let them do it themselves kind of thing and just make sure that they are doing something? Or how does that look?
Yeah, for sure. No, nothing is do it yourself and make sure you're doing it right. It's all super structured. So the first thing that you walk away from after our first session. So once you've done your consultation, you say, okay, I'm down for coaching. Then we do like a deep dive in our first 1 hour session, which will include putting together a daily routine. So basically I have people coming to me before that session. You have to prep, like you have to tell me like what your day usually looks like right now. You have to send it to me. I use Google Classroom and like the whole Google Sheets to, track all these assignments and whatnot. And I have my clients send me what their day currently looks like. And then we will work on restructuring that to optimize it for the goals that they have set out. So usually this, and again, in this, the intake form, they set their goals. They tell me like, these are 3 things that I would like to accomplish, right? So it's about getting like super clear on what you want, and then we organize a plan to get there. So on a day-to-day basis, that's the daily routine. We just block out times. It's super simple, but it allows for intentional, purposeful work throughout the day. So it's like not like you wake up every morning and like, what am I doing? Like every morning you wake up and you know exactly where you're supposed to be at any time throughout the day. So that structure, I find is like really valuable for cultivating attention. And it's like, okay, well, I know that I'm only working like for this 2 hour block on, like the social media for my business or like whatever it is. And then like, I know that I don't have to think about, whether it be like my relationship or like my finances, accounting, like whatever it may be, until like my 1 hour block for that later this afternoon. So the daily routine is huge. That's like the first tangible thing that people walk away from and immediately start experiencing results, because they're like, oh shit, like I actually have so much time in the day when I'm using it effectively. So many people just like, we sit here on our phones and like scroll away and, whatever. It's like you're wasting your time hustling for 10 hours a day if you're spending half that time brain dead on your phone. You know what I mean? So it's about being like really intentional with the way that you spend your time.
So yeah, it sounds like you help people kind of take a step back, do kind of like an audit and an evaluation of where they're spending their time, what is important to them, how to prioritize these things within their lives. So I guess my next question for you would be like, why do you think that people have such a difficult time nowadays, like organizing their time and being intentional with their time to need, a service like this? Like you would think that we're given one life and we want to be able to spend it as efficiently and effectively as possible, but so many people don't. What do you think is the root cause of the problem in society right now, where people are largely unfocused and just generally confused about, how to reach their goals, or maybe don't even have goals? Like why are people even having these problems in the first place?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that there's a number of reasons, but you'll see like one of my, if you look at my marketing, you look at my website, whatever, like one of the key mantras is, if you're not happy with your life, you can change it. And so many people go through life living a life that they are unsatisfied with. They are like trying to snap in to like a set of tracks that were laid out already. And they're like choosing, they're like, oh, I could go down this path. I could go down this path. I could do this job. Like I could have like, I could get married at 30. I could do like, have kids at this time or whatever, and everyone's trying to like fit themselves into a container that wasn't made to hold them. Right. So when you are expending all of this energy to try to do something that you don't really want to do, you're going to be trying to escape it like out of the back of your mind all the time. So there's so much escapism. And then that's going to take the form of whether it be like drugs and alcohol, porn, social media addiction, like all these different kinds of like escapist tendencies that people use as crutches, so they don't have to face the fact that like they're not actually doing what they want to do. So that's, again, another really huge part of it is like mission. What is your fucking mission? And this is something that, we have a few exercises that we go through to like boil that down. A lot of people know what it is though. And they're just afraid to say it out loud, because whether they're afraid to fail, they think it's stupid, like they don't really know how to get there, right? But if you drill down with somebody and you're like, what are you afraid to say? Like, what are you afraid to say your mission is? you get a good answer usually, you know? And then it's just about creating an actionable plan to get there, right? So much of the balking and the settling comes from fear of the unknown, right? It's just like this big empty space of like between you and your goal. And you're like, I literally don't even know where to start. So I'm just going to do this thing like where I get like, you know, paid $100,000 a year and it's great. And like, I don't have to like think about all of this shit. But what I really rather be doing is like, whatever, I want to start like an animal rescue. I want to start a homestead. Like, you know, I want to be, you know, a chef, whatever it is. It's like, okay, like, let's figure out how to make that happen.
So, what is up, guys? And thank you so much for listening to the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. If you're interested in transforming your body and getting shredded this summer, I put together an awesome free 30-minute mini course called Shredded Secrets of Fitness Influencers that you can grab at elonmuscular.com or visit the link in the description of this podcast. This is real, raw, true information that you won't find anywhere else. Head over to elonmuscular.com/shredded to check it out right now. So I guess let's say that you are somebody who, you know, is successful and you're successful on the surface and you did all these things and you built up like all this stuff, but you're unhappy, right? Would you ever encourage somebody to take like a big risk and quit what they're doing or something like that? Because, you know, I talked to a business coach on the podcast and she was saying that like she would encourage someone to an extent if she felt that they had the right, you know, mindset about it to go into debt in order to work with her because she really believes that she could provide them with the results or whatever. So like if you see that somebody has already built up stuff, but they're clearly unhappy, how big of a risk would you feel comfortable, you know, pushing someone towards? Like how uncomfortable do you really have to get in order to change?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this is super case by case. And just want to make it clear that like, I'm not giving anybody advice here because I don't know you. There are certain people who need the structure of the 9-to-5 lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not telling everybody you should be an entrepreneur. Like you should, you know, take these big risks and, you know, create this like massive thing that's bigger than yourself, because that's not going to be healthy for everybody. Like we're not all wired the same way and everyone's priorities are different. So you got to get your priorities straight before you make any decisions like that. Oftentimes when people are feeling unhappy, dissatisfied, whatever, they want to make like this massive change, this overhaul, like to be like, oh, I want a new life. I'm going to get divorced. Like I'm going to like move somewhere else. You know, I'm going to do this or that or whatever. I'm going to quit my job. And they do that before they do that audit, right? Before they actually look at like, what am I doing every day? Like, what am I neglecting? Like, where am I selling myself short that is standing in the way of me and fulfillment, right? And that's the shit that I help people with. Like first and foremost, it's like, let's go back to the fundamentals, because it's like, all right, well, if you're not happy with the life you're currently living and you say, oh, well, you know, and you think it's because of your job, you quit your job and you start your own business and whatever. But like, meanwhile, you know, you're still like staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning, jerking off or like doing whatever it is that like is creating this loneliness, this dissatisfaction, this lack of fulfillment. It's like, nothing's going to change. Like, so oftentimes people will think that a symptom is the cause, right? So that's why I come at it from this holistic standpoint, where if somebody tells me like, oh, I want to lose weight, or like, you know, I'm having problems in my relationship. It's like, all right, well, are you having problems in your relationship? Like, because you're not satisfied with work, because you're not being productive, because you're not confident in yourself. You know what I mean? Like you always have to look at everything surrounding the problem. Like, you know, like Albert Einstein, right? It's like you can't solve a problem on the same level that it was created or whatever. It's like you always have to look at things from a holistic standpoint. So listen, if you want to do a complete overhaul and you say like, fuck it, I'm ready to go. Like I want to start a new life. I want to do this or that. Like by all means, go for it. Just make sure you're like not smoking the pipe when you do that. Like you got to check your motivators and what is making you think that that's a good idea. And if you want to do that, it's like, okay, let's make a plan to do it. Don't just dive out into the ocean when you don't know how to swim. It's like develop the skills, like do some work, get some competencies, take some classes, do whatever you need to do, do volunteer work in the field, like whatever it is. It's like, there's a practical way to go about like creating massive change, right? So those are the things that, I think people need highlighted sometimes, because they just get to a point where they're so stressed out that they want any exit. And it's like, all right, well, let's do this the right way.
Yeah, I think it's starting to make sense, where somebody could use a life coach in terms of just helping to get organized with that kind of stuff. Because I feel like, we live in a society that has so much need for immediate gratification all the time. And when you go online, there are a lot of people constantly, these messages are being, thrown at you like, fuck the 9 to 5, it's for losers, or like, burn the boats and take a big risk on your business. And like, do you want to be somebody who has freedom, or do you want to be somebody who's like a slave? And like all this like really harsh messaging. And I see it in the fitness industry too, like a lot of shaming and a lot of just like trying to make people feel bad about where they are in order for them to have the leverage to be able to transform. But then at the same time, their people's shame and feeling bad about themselves is at the core of their problems in the first place, right? So I think it does make sense to have somebody that's kind of like in your corner to help guide you along that journey. But for most people, I would say that, they turn to something like a therapist in order to work those things out. So where would you say that life coaching differentiates from therapy, and like, what's really the difference?
Yeah, another great question. And one that I get asked a lot. A lot of my clients actually have therapists as well. And the thing is, I've done therapy, like since I was a kid. I had therapists since I was like 16 years old, on and off, been in talk therapy, traditional talk therapy, and it has value for sure. Because when I go to therapy, I use it as an opportunity to just unload and dump all of the shit that's in my mind onto somebody else, just like somebody who's just like there. I'm paying you to listen to me, and I'm just gonna fucking say anything that I want for the next hour. And that's sick. Like, it's a really great option to like do that self-work and heal. The big differentiator in coaching is like, we'll do the internal work. We do a lot of personal narrative work, identity work, exploration, but it's always with the caveat that like, you have to go do something about it. You have to take action. Like at the end of this session, you're going to come out with a set of action items. And before we meet next week, like you better have gotten them done. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's when you think about like a coach, right? If you ever played sports or anything like that, like I always think about one of my high school football coaches, Coach Clint. Coach Clint was like, 70 years old, like, like whatever, but like a total hard ass. And when we'd be in the weight room, I'd be on the row machine, and he would have like, he'd like see you working out and just like literally walk around the gym. And like, if he saw you slacking, like, not with good form or whatever, he would just like drive a knee into your back, like on the row machine, and be like, straighten up, boy, like finish it up. He's like, oh, what? That's the end of your set? Like, no, it's not. Give me 3 more. You know what I mean? So like the coach is there to drive growth and progress and demand action. So it's like, it's this creating this interesting dynamic with a client where there's trust and love and rapport. And it's like, they know that I got you, like I'm here for you, but I'm also going to make you work, So that I think is like the big difference. Like in my experience with therapy and what I've heard from my clients, it's like you can easily just get caught in like this, for some people, straight up a lifetime, like 40 years going to therapy, talking about shit, ruminating in these like dark thoughts without ever doing anything to change them. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, well, we'll just pick it up next week. There's your hour, like we'll talk more about this next week. It's like, no, like, I offer unlimited text coaching. Like I'm with you in the trenches every day. Like, I guess some shit comes up, like we'll troubleshoot it together. Like I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to ride you. You are going to be accountable for the shit that you say that you're going to do. So there's this like, I don't know. It's really action based, I'd say that's the big difference.
So how much do you actually, how many like how much interaction do you actually have with a client on a daily basis? Like, are you talking with them all day? Do you have a limit to like, hey man, like you're talking to me too much? Or like, how do you stop people from unloading their emotional baggage onto you like they would a therapist? And, like, how do you set your parameters for what's cool and what's not cool to keep people on track if you're offering this kind of unlimited service?
Yeah. So, right, it's unlimited, but everyone's guaranteed like one response per day. So it's like you can say whatever you want, like maybe I'll get back to you sooner, maybe I won't. But people get it pretty much. It's just about like setting the boundaries really clear when you take a client on, like being clear about what the work we're doing is here, like why is it different than therapy, like what's going on, and also emphasizing accountability, right? Like where it's like you are responsible for your life. I'm here to help you, but like it's on you. Like I'm not like here to take care of you, So it's just like it's about like really instilling those values and empowering the client to handle the things themselves. To be honest, I haven't really had to run into clients like abusing the unlimited text messaging thing at this point, which I'm super grateful for. Everyone seems to be like rocking. People like to handle things for themselves. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to have go to somebody else to solve their problems. And maybe like that's why those people aren't coming to me, because of like the way that I put out my message or whatever it is,
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about your personal journey as well, like how you like grew into the person to feel like you can offer this service and stuff like that. So I know you like on a personal level that, you when you lost your job during the pandemic and decided to make the move to Tulum in Mexico and like are living out there. What made you decide to, take that leap to move to a different country? And like, how's that been going? For anybody who's interested in living internationally, I've talked about how I want to move to Thailand, and that's a goal of mine. And I've lived in Thailand in the past, and some people know me for, from my time there and some content that I made over there. So what do you think about like living in different countries, and how's your experience been, in terms of living abroad, especially during a pandemic?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've been traveling internationally since I was like 18. It was the first time I went out of the country to go teach English in Madagascar. That was a really incredible experience. And that's kind of like what lit my travel fire. That experience was really demanding, like in just like doing a bunch of shit that I had never done before, like going to all these places where I didn't speak the language, having to figure out how to navigate that. And it definitely like made me feel comfortable to go anywhere. And like, I went through some dangerous places and, just like learned how to handle myself and like, all right, cool. I think I'm good, like wherever I go. And then when I was working, like, I've been working remote for the past few years, like before the pandemic. So I use that opportunity to travel around the States, travel, around Europe and see a lot of really cool places. I love to travel. It's like a very much like a big part of like who I am and what offered me this new lease on life. Like when I was 16, like I was super depressed. Like I lost a friend in a tragic accident and basically was just like so miserable. And I wanted to go see like if there was another way that I could live my life, So like that's what drove me to go travel to Africa to go see what was up, because I was so desperate for anything different, like anything than what I was currently living. And and it was incredible. It was like exactly what I hoped it would be. It was just like, oh word, like now I know that any time like I want to change my environment or my life or whatever, it's like I can do that. You know what I mean? There are other ways to live this life. So that lit me up. I was like, okay, well, I know I love this place. Let me go see where else like I can learn from and this and that and whatever. So, I came down to Tulum. I've been interested in the area for a long time. Like my girlfriend was down here 3 years ago, just on vacation. And like since our first date, she's like, oh, Brendan, you would love Tulum. You would love Tulum. Like there's a really big wellness culture down here, like super conscious yoga, green juices on every corner, like there's like gyms on the beach, like with wood and concrete and like really cool weights and shit. And it's just like this beautiful, like natural jungly aesthetic, like all over the place. And my environment is really important. Living in New York, like, me and my girlfriend were jammed in like a studio apartment for, most of the pandemic, and it was trash. It was like, we weathered it out, and like, we had a lot of fun in the beginning. Honestly, we were doing like live stream parties and like whatever. It was like silly, but then we were like, all right, like, hold on, is this actually what we want to keep doing? So in October, we came down here, and travel has its ups and downs for sure. It's really hard to move to another country to learn how to live without your comforts, and it's harder to do it with somebody else, honestly, in the beginning. Like, when you take your relationship to a new place, like, you now are dealing with all these external stressors that you didn't have before, and it's conscious, intentional work every single day to say, no, I'm committed. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to make it through. So many people, dude, everyone you talk to down here, like, came down with their girlfriend or their boyfriend, and like, they broke up. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like what happens. And another reason for that is like a running joke in Tulum is that every relationship is an open relationship. It's just like, there's this really sexual, like, wild feminine energy that exists in Tulum, where, it's just like mad hot topless girls on the beach, like hot dudes, like super jacked, like tan, everybody. It's just like, damn, where am I? This is wild. So yeah, like, for a lot of people who come down here, like, they struggle in the relationship. And I'm super grateful for my girlfriend, just because, every day, we fight, things are hard, but like, every day we make the decision again to just do it and make it work and troubleshoot the problem. That's the thing. Like, another thing, like, you'll see on my website, I think it's only on the mobile site when it loads, but it's this thing that comes up to the screen that says every problem has a solution. And that's a fact. It's just like, if it doesn't have a solution, it's not a problem, right? Like, then you're looking at the wrong thing. So that's the way that we approach life, where it's just like, whatever it is that comes up, we can handle it, and we're committed to doing so, right? Yeah, man, Tulum has been an absolute hotbed for creativity for me. I mean, it's just like inspiration everywhere you look, incredible people, like, to be able to have like that in-person interaction that nobody gets right now during the pandemic is just so valuable. And I'm so grateful for it. Like, I've got like a men's group that I go to with like some really, really great dudes, like bright, wise, like, really just like incredible dudes who are just like, it's like, damn, like, it's like I feel like I'm sitting around like Knights of the Round Table when I'm with these guys. You know what I mean? Like, everybody is like sharing their reflections and thoughts on life and like how to be better men and like how to get the most out of life. And it's just like, yo, like, you can't do that in New York right now. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's like, online stuff and whatever, but to be able to do it in person and have these connections and workshop ideas and get inspired, super valuable for sure.
Really appreciate you tuning in to this episode of the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. I wanted to take this chance to tell you about my one-on-one coaching program, Physique Mastery Coaching. If you ever wanted to work with me directly, this is the best way to do it. We have coaching plans for all income levels starting from $99 a month, as well as one-off calls where I create a lesson plan custom tailored to your unique situation. We talk a lot about hardcore performance-enhancing drugs on this podcast, as well as advanced diet and training principles. Don't waste your precious time, energy, or health learning how to implement all this on your own. Get in touch with me and I will guide you on a straight path to your physique goals. Check out elonmuscular.com to book a free physique mastery consultation call with me. And I think that, travel will definitely pick up in a big way, like post pandemic and stuff like that. And I'm really looking forward to my next travel experience, because I always also love to travel and go to new places. And I haven't really done it so much in terms of living in another place, like with my relationship too. And I can see how, there could be problems there, because when you travel as a single guy, it's always all, it's all fun and games, really. There's nothing that can go wrong. Anything that happens is cool. Like, you're stranded in the middle of whatever city that you're in and you don't know how to get home at 2:30 in the morning, and like, it's fine. Like, you don't care. But like, if you are there with your girlfriend, then it's like, it's a little bit, you got to take a little bit more responsibility for like multiple people. And then for, if anyone's listening that has a family, then obviously it's a whole nother story, and you got to make sure that they're accounted for. And it just, travel, like you said, it brings so many different factors into the equation that just makes life more complicated. And it can definitely challenge a relationship. So I can see why, a lot of people break up, going through that process. And it's definitely something that like I have been talking about with my partner. Like before we move out to Thailand, it has to be like, the relationship has to be like very airtight before you take it and place it somewhere else with all these different factors. You need to make sure that all the, holes are plugged. So because, the issues that you might have been having will erupt once you put in more, things into the equation. So I think that's definitely like a major key. So looking forward, into the future, like where do you see the future of like Tulum going? Do you think that you guys will stay there? And like, what are kind of like, where do you see this, pandemic going? And where do you see kind of like the industry that you're in moving with that? Like, has it grown? Do people need more help now than they did before? Like, what is your, how do you see that your clients interacting with everything that's going on in the world right now?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like there were a few questions in there, so I'm going to take like the last one. I think that what's going on in the world right now is the main reason why the business was able to take off successfully, right? Like, because there's so much uncertainty and so much fear of the future. And like, everybody has like been in hibernation for a year, and they're trying to figure out how to like reemerge gracefully, right? And like step into like this new world, with like intention. And like everyone's had time to reflect on like, what do I want from my life? Like, what do I like about what the pandemic has given me? Like, what do I appreciate about this new lifestyle? And what do I miss? So people are coming back and they're like trying to figure it out, right? But they need a little bit of help sometimes. They sometimes need a little bit of a push. It's like everyone's chock full of ideas right now. Everybody's just been like thinking about what they want to do, what they're going to do. Everyone made their pandemic to-do list about like, oh, I'm going to learn how to speak a new language. Like, I'm going to get super jacked. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, like whatever. And now it's like vaccines are available. Like, the travel bans are lifting in the US. CDC just gave the green light. You know what I mean? Europe is like, poised to start letting, like at least Greece is. Greece is about to say fuck you once again to the EU. We're doing summer, but like everyone is starting to look at like, okay, like let's start looking at what travel looks like again. And now that there's this remote work option for so many people that didn't have it before, like people have to figure out how they want to use that. So I mean, that's like such an interesting thing that we're going to see happen. Just like, with all these businesses who have, multi-million-dollar office spaces in New York City, and, they were having to house their employees, and they're now like, oh, well, we don't have to do that anymore. Actually, like we learned how to do the remote workflow. It's all good. And like, you guys can travel anywhere you want, as long as you're available from 9 to 5 New York time, So there's a lot of people who are now like looking how to do that. Like, these are the DMs that I get just like from my friends and whatever, everyone like wants to know how to do it. And like the answer is just fucking do it. Like, honestly, for most people, it's like, get yourself set up and like you got to self-regulate. You know what I mean? Like there's this fetishization of freedom in our generation. Like you were talking about earlier, like all the stuff you see on Instagram about like, oh, fuck the 9 to 5, blah, 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 this, that, whatever. Everyone thinks that like freedom is the ultimate value, or that's what it's being sold to us as, right? It's like freedom, freedom, freedom. But regardless of like how unencumbered you are by like the borders of your country or the times that you have to work, it's like if you're choosing not to have a master, like you have to be your own master. You have to put those boundaries in place. You have to self-regulate. So that's what I was talking about earlier. It's not for everybody to like live somewhat like nomadic, like this digital nomad lifestyle, because it requires a lot of discipline. So I just say like, check yourself. Like, are you down to self-regulate like that? I think that like places like Tulum are going to continue to boom. Like almost everyone you meet down here is down here for an extended period of time now because they don't have to go back because they're working remote. So it's like, this is an international hub for digital nomads. Like everyone that you meet, it's like, yeah, I'm from Germany, I'm from Finland, I'm from, wherever in South America, all over the States, England, wherever, Africa, like literally people are here, Australia, from all over the world. I meet like every day. And you're going to see more hotspots like this, like start to pop up. I mean, like, for people out in Europe right now, like so many people spent the winter in Dubai, like, cause Dubai made their borders open and available for people to come do the same thing that's happening in Tulum. And, Greece is going to be doing the same thing. It's just like, everyone just got to get their infrastructure set up. Like I know Tanzania also, I keep getting ads to like go stay in Tanzania. It's beautiful, man. If you look at pictures online, I mean, like Zanzibar and Tanzania, like it's gorgeous. Like there's some really, really beautiful countries in Africa, like Kenya too. Like I get like that are booming and have created the infrastructure to support digital nomads, right? So it's very interesting, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of it. As far as the coaching industry around it, like the coaching industry is poised to blow up over the next 10 years. Like we're in the middle of a huge boom, right? Probably everybody listening to this, like you're a coach or your friend's a coach or like, whatever. It's like the industry is booming. And the thing is, more and more people need a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance, and people see the value in that, right? So I think it's all growing, right, is the answer.
I think that in the past, people would have like this type of coaching thing wouldn't have flied like maybe 20, 30 years ago. I feel like everybody had a way better idea of like who they were and what they were looking to do. And like people were very one track minded. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to then I'm going to get my family, and then I'm going to do this and this and this. Like, why would I need a coach other than like you said, like high school sports or whatever? But nowadays, like, most of the clients for coaches are people who are, working full time. They don't have enough time to handle these things themselves. And like, they get into, like you said, these coping habits to deal with the fact that, stress from work or stress from life or whatever. And then things in their life start to fall off, whether it be their fitness or any of the 8 things that you pretty much mentioned, right, can start to take the back seat when you get into adult life. And people nowadays, I feel like, in the Western world, have more money than time for the most part, at least people who are willing to work with coaches. And a coach becomes like kind of like a status symbol, like an accessory, like somebody that I can hire to help me with these things in my life. And obviously they have to want to put the work in too, but it becomes a million times easier to do the work that you have to do when you have somebody on your ass. You're basically paying someone to be like a coach is like a fancy way to put it, but at the end of the day, like we are providing service, like we're servants, you know what I mean?
For real, man. I joke about it all the time. It's like, you could call me whatever you want, like whatever makes you feel good, like whatever's going to like resonate with you. It's like, I'm your personal assistant, I'm your lifestyle consultant, I'm whatever, I'm your coach, I'm your teacher, I'm this, that, whatever like works for you, whatever's going to make you like do the work. You know what I mean? Because some people have like a really big ego about coaching. Like that's like the big thing like about therapy too. Like a lot of people like don't want to go to therapy because like they're too man for it. You know what I mean? Like they don't need any help. Like, I'm good. Don't worry about me. Like I got it. But it's like, do you want an assistant? Like, do you want someone to help? Do you want somebody to help you get all the work done that you have to do? You busy big man, like what do you want? So it's the same thing. It's that assistance with executing on goals and like getting the shit done that you want to get done,
I think, I've found too, like in my own journey of trying to become a better person myself, not on a coaching level, but just as an individual, every time that I've invested in myself, whether it be, investing in my business or investing in my personal growth or anything, anytime I've put money into becoming a better person in any way, it's always paid off in spades, either because it didn't pay off and it was a waste of money, but I learned a lesson that was equal to the amount of money that I spent or more, or I actually got the benefit from it, which is what usually happens in, furthering my education or whatever. So I don't know. I found, honestly, if like this last year, it's been a huge like life hack for me to just be like, wow, you can just take the money that you earned and instead of putting it into a savings account or putting it into a retirement fund or whatever, you can invest it into your own self in a way. And it's just really about like learning how to do that and having the right people to do that. And it's hard nowadays because there's so many scams out there and there's so many people readily available and waiting to take your money from you and then provide you with some kind of cookie cutter substandard service. It's hard to find people that actually do want to serve you once they take your money that you can invest in, because you're not only investing in yourself, but you're also investing in someone else. And it's hard to, have that trust in people, which is kind of why I do this podcast, so people can get to know me better and the coaches that I have on the podcast better, and understand that, we are real people. We're not just some guy saying, hit me in the DMs to get ripped or whatever, or change your life. We're real people who actually do want to help. And we're constantly working on ourselves and constantly working on strategies to better serve our clients, strategies to better market ourselves, to get the message out to people that we can help them. And it's just like every day we wake up being like, how can I serve more people and get more people to trust me? And that is just like so different than working a 9-to-5 job where you wake up thinking, how can I get by today, or like do the least amount of work that I could possibly do to, get by, or how can I do work for a promotion, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you're not internally motivated to do the job. It's always external motivation. And I think that people nowadays realize that being internally motivated is really the best way to get things done and make changes in their life. And anyone that can teach people how to do that better, whether it be like a dating coach or a business coach or a fitness coach or a life coach, I want to be able to have those conversations. So, anybody that listens to this podcast knows that I love to talk about drugs. And I know that there's a big, plant medicine movement going on right now in Tulum and stuff like that. And so I saw on your Instagram that you did like some kind of ceremony recently. I'm not sure exactly like the details of, what was involved there. What role does plant medicine play in this kind of, transformational process? Is it something that you would ever coach someone on or recommend to a client? Is it something that you do yourself? And where do you think that fits in? Because that's like a cutting edge thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about online.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's a huge part of the work for me. My own personal development, like the plant medicine, psychedelic experimentation has been like such a big part of like reshaping my worldview and retraining my brain to like experience fulfillment and happiness. So yeah, I'll just talk about what's going on down in Tulum right now. I mean, like, you can like go down the street and literally there's just like signs for like every drug you've ever seen in the entire world. Like you have like the pharmacies, for instance, like the pharmacies like have all like their pharmaceuticals. Like you can buy Xanax, Percocets, like, Tramadol, Vicodin, like whatever you want, like at the pharmacies. And then like you drive like a little bit further down and you have like your shaman pharmacy, right? Where it's like we got like, ayahuasca, peyote, DMT, like, mushrooms, whatever it may be. And there's a lot of people who come down here to do that work, and it's deep internal work. And it's really sacred, if you treat it that way. Like you can, the people who are coming down here to take psychedelics, like, it's a lot different than like, the way you take psychedelics in college and like, or like at a music festival or whatever, like where you're just like trying to party, have a good time. And there's still breakthroughs, like they can be really healing and powerful, like in those experiences as well. But people come down here to work and like confront their demons, like break old patterns, and just recently, yeah, like maybe 3 weeks ago, I did a Peyote Ceremony, which was nothing like I thought it was going to be, but really, really powerful. And, I have this for my whole life, this side to me that like, I really care about what everybody thinks, like I always am like looking for approval and want to make sure that like I'm doing things the right way. And like during this peyote ceremony, I had this huge breakthrough. And like, now that I've like stepped onto this public stage through social media and whatnot, like putting myself out there, it's like, it's hard work for me all the time to just like make sure I'm saying the things correctly and make sure that I'm representing like my views and my values and like that I don't look like one of these scammer, like fuck boys, like whatever, you know, like, but also trying to attract clients and build a business and whatever. So like, I'm super self-conscious about all that shit naturally. And I had like a really great breakthrough during the peyote ceremony. You know, like I got to sit with some really great dudes. Like, you know, we did it all night. We ate the peyote cactus and sat around the fire. It was facilitated by like a shaman who flew down from like the desert in Mexico. And we sat around a fire all night for like, you know, 8, 10 hours, starting at 10 p.m. And I just like worked through this self-consciousness, this like fear of judgment, like the whole time. And I had this like just fucking lightning bolt of inspiration and just this voice that was just like, you're doing it right. Like, it's all good, you know, like stop worrying about what everyone thinks. Like, you know what to do. Like, and you open up that connection with like yourself, just like to truly, like when people say like, listen to your heart, listen to yourself, like whatever it is, like, it's like, yeah, when you can open that up and you can feel like, oh no, I'm good. Like, I don't need somebody else to like co-sign my shit and tell me that I'm all right. And like, that it's okay to build my business, that it's okay to post this ad, like whatever. It's just like, I'm just going to do it because it's true to me, you know? So that was really powerful. And, you know, again, I had like the opportunity to bond with some really incredible guys the next morning, like who were doing similar work. And we were just able to talk through all that deep internal work we did all night. Super powerful. Love the plant medicine. Is it something that I would recommend to clients? If we're working together for like a long time, I'd have to get to know you. We'd have to develop a relationship. I wouldn't tell you to go do it alone. Like, you know, there's like a certain way in which like I would recommend these things. I do like, you know, hook people up down here, like with people who facilitate these ceremonies. So like if there's a client like who says like, yeah, I really want to do this stuff and I want to explore it, like I can make that happen and I will be there to support you through it and whatnot. That's like, you know, a much more intimate, higher ticket coaching package that I offer. But yeah, it's super powerful. It's been really great for me in my own personal development journey.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've had a few experiences. I mean, a lot of experiences like that. And we had a guy, you know, I had a guy on the podcast, Aaron Burke, who talked about, you know, how he went to Japan with his friends and they all did LSD and that changed his life. And after that, he realized that he wanted to make the move out there and like live out there and like completely changed everything. And at that time, he wasn't even doing bodybuilding. And now he's like on his way to being a professional bodybuilder. And like, he had all these like crazy revelations from taking, you know, an LSD trip. And I know like a lot of people are, you know, obviously averse to it or scared to tripping and stuff like that. And I've been doing, and I have experimented with in the past and have been doing a lot of research on like microdosing, LSD and psilocybin and stuff like that. Is that something that, you know, you've ever tried or that ever researched? Like, what do you think about people? Because, you know, the reason that I ask these questions is because, you know, these things are linked kind of with transformational work kind of in a abstract way these days. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people who help people with these personal transformations and breakthroughs like that, especially like, you know, people outside of the traditional therapist medium where like your therapist is not going to prescribe you LSD because that's illegal and like they would be lose their license, you know what I mean? But a lot of these life coaches, and now they have like microdosing coaches and like trip coaches and like all this type of different stuff. So do you have any experience with microdosing and what do you think about microdosing?
Yeah, I have some experience with microdosing. I'm definitely not like super well versed in it, so I don't want to speak outside of like my expertise. I've experimented with microdosing, is what I would say, but never under the direction like of a coach or you know like a specific program. It was more so like I heard about it and wanted to give it a shot. So, you know, I have microdosed with mushrooms and LSD. So psilocybin mushrooms and LSD. The LSD, honestly, like it was, it wasn't great for me. I couldn't focus. I was trying to do like screen work, computer work, and like it didn't work well for me, honestly. Potentially like in a different work setting. I did that when I was still working at like my old job at the agency. And yeah, it was tough for me to like work on the screen. Psilocybin was a much like gentler experience, and I felt it was a little bit more somatic and like physical, in that like I had this good bodily high feeling, like very gentle, and a peace that kind of like permeated the way that I was working, where like I was like comfortable to like take risks and do shit and like think creatively and to do little like random exercises throughout the day and just like work in flow. Like I felt very much like in flow. So that was cool. It's definitely something that like I would love to explore more. I think that, you know, they're really, really great tools. And yeah, like you said, there's there's plenty of people who are doing this work like full time as like a microdosing coach, or, you know, psychedelic integration coach, and all that stuff is really valuable. There's an amazing book. It's by Michael Pollan. It's called How to Change Your Mind. If you guys want to check that out, like there's a lot of great information in there on psychedelics and like how you can use those to rewire your brain, and change your patterns, behaviors, and all things like that. And there's also all over the place, like there's these new clinics popping up. So like if you suffer from anxiety or depression, like, and honestly, I think the parameters aren't super strict right now. It's not covered by insurance. Like it's whatever, but there's this place called Mind Bloom. Mind Bloom is a ketamine therapy clinic. And I know it's in New York, I think in Denver, LA, there's a few different places. And another company that I know is doing cool work with mushrooms is Field Trip, they're called. They're also in New York, I know, and in a few other spots. But, you know, if you want to go experiment with the healing benefits of psychedelic medicine, like in a controlled setting where it's super safe, and like you have doctors, right, who are working on all this stuff and who have created the most comfortable, beautiful experience you can imagine. Like go look at pictures of the offices. Like they're just like, it's like, oh, I'd love to like sit in that comfy chair and like, you know, take a little mushrooms or whatever. Yeah, there are these opportunities where you can experience this stuff in like a really safe, controlled environment. So if it's all brand new to you, like by all means, like do it the right way, you know?
There's a few other topics that I want to ask you about that, like maybe, you know, people who listen to this podcast are mostly like fitness people that just wouldn't be aware of this kind of stuff. And the next thing is not drug related, but meditation. Like it's something that I've tried to do multiple times. I could never stick to like, you know, a consistent practice of meditation. My girlfriend got into meditation a few months ago and has been consistently doing it. And it's had like incredible results in reducing her anxiety. You know, I know that you personally do meditation and like lead meditation, and it's a big part of what you do with your clients. Can you talk about like, you know, what, like, first of all, what would the benefits of meditation be? And I want this to be like, just not anything, because there's so much like fluff like surrounding meditation, you know what I mean? But like, if you had to put somebody on like a super basic like meditation routine to really actually like help them reduce their anxiety, for example, right? What would that look like? What's like the minimum effective dose of it? And, you know, it's something that you know more about. So could you give us like a brief clinic on like how to get into meditation and like what it actually looks like to be successful with meditation?
Yeah, dude, this is a huge part of the work that I do. So like, this is something that all of my clients are meditating for sure. And most of them have never meditated before. So like working with beginner meditation people is like, that's what I do. And yeah, there's so much fluff around it and so many like misinterpretations and like whatever. So what does meditation offer? Just like three things, right? Like focus, decisiveness, and stress relief, let's just call it, right? Those are three like really simple layman's terms that you will get from learning to meditate. And I never like a really simple meditation. I mean, the most powerful tool for meditation, you guys probably hear about it. Like I know it's big in the fitness community, breath work. Like breath work is like the word of like, you know, the past couple of years. Like everyone's talking about like Wim Hof and like all this kind of stuff. The power of the breath. The simple breath work meditation that I offer to get everyone started is literally it's like 1 minute. And I'd be happy to guide you in it right now if you want to give it a shot and just show you how easy it is.
All right, let's do it. Everyone listening, we're all going to do it right now.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's lock in. All right, cool. So if you guys are with me, just come and sit up straight. Let your eyes close. Just take a breath and notice where your breath is right now. If you're breathing into your chest, that's going to activate a little bit more alertness, a little bit more of that sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. You breathe down into your belly, be more relaxing, activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So maybe just let's redirect our breath down into the belly, place a hand on the stomach, breathe in through the nose, down into the belly and exhale. Cool. And just let your breath be normal. Chill here. Notice where it is. All right, what we're going to do together is we are going to take 6 breaths. 5 seconds in through the nose, 5 seconds out through the nose. When we do this, we're going to constrict the throat. So it's going to be an audible breath. It will sound like an ocean wave or like Darth Vader, right? So I'll make this sound for you into the microphone. Hope it picks up. That's what the breath will sound like. So we're gonna do that 6 times. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Keep your attention with the breath. Go ahead and exhale completely. Inhale. Inhale. Exhale. Continue. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more. Stick with the breath. Final exhale. Push the breath all the way out through the nose and hold it out at the bottom, locking the lungs with no air. I'll count from 10. Inhale. Oh, and sigh. Exhale, let it out, and let the breath return to normal. Keep the eyes closed here. Just sit here. Notice how you feel. A little bit different, a little bit more focused, a little bit more calm. Everything kind of slows down. That breath is called an Ujjayi breath. It is a focusing breath. It's a yogic breath. And it is designed to cultivate focus. The reason it's so powerful in doing this is because that audible sound, it gives you that stimulus for the meditation, right? Where our brain tends to wander and all these different thoughts will come up. But when you keep focused on a physical stimulus, whether that be something like a visual cue or an audio cue, it really helps to bring the attention inward and focus. So super powerful, super easy, like 1 to 2 minutes. And you guys can use that at any point throughout the day. It's how I start all of my sessions with my clients, just like to lock in. We do like a little like shake it out physical warm up, just like to loosen up the body, loosen up the hips. And then we do a breathing exercise to drop in. and set an intention for the session to say like, this is what I want to get out of this session, right? With that clear, focused mind. So you guys all just meditated. It's as simple as that. 1 to 2 minutes, use the breath. It's the best tool. And if you guys do that once a day, or whenever it works for you, you will start to see the benefits immediately. I promise you. Like if you didn't feel it just now, like you got to do everything at least twice. You know what I mean? Try it out, do it again. How is that for you, Elon?
I definitely felt it. I mean, I felt more calm. I mean, taking deep breaths in and out is something that I do a lot when I'm feeling anxious. I never really thought about it as like that I'm meditating. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling really anxious. So I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like just to calm myself down. So it was kind of similar to that, but I can see the extra, the intention of like, I'm going to meditate and I'm going to do it this way to, for this reason, to focus better, to calm myself down better. It gives it that little bit of extra, oomph, like to really make it stick and make you feel more accomplished, like you did something. I guess it just like frames it the right way to give you a more positive outlook on it. Definitely the first live exercise on the podcast. So I appreciate that. And I think that was good. I hope you guys listening, did it with us and didn't think it was too cheesy or whatever, because I think that, this kind of stuff, I'm, from the background that I'm from, I'm always like so averse to anything that's going to calm me down, because the culture that I come from is very fight or flight, anxiety driven, like, kill or be killed. That's just the, mindset that I was raised with. So I've always been taught that, therapy is weak, slowing yourself down for even a second is weak, and I think all these different, toxic beliefs that I was raised with are kind of what pushed me into this extreme form of bodybuilding and like really being, everything I do is extreme, from bodybuilding to working to just my mindset in terms of everything. There's never been a space to take a step back, because when I do that, I always feel like I'm in danger. And recently I've been trying to stop doing that and like just let myself just chill out for a second and just realize that like there is time to relax. In fact, like there is no time not to relax. By not relaxing, I'm actually impeding on my ability to produce by always being in this, I don't know the right term for it. You said, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Which one is the one where you're like in fight or flight mode? That's
that's sympathetic. That's the sympathetic.
Yeah. So like I live in that state, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of fitness people and bodybuilders do, because it's always like, go, go, go. We're always trying to achieve something. And there's a huge, reliance on stimulants in this community, whether it be, to stave off appetite for dieting or to focus to do your work. I just made a video on my YouTube channel about modafinil, and it's very common that people in this community will take, pre-workouts, tons of caffeine, and, for some people, it even goes into cocaine, amphetamines and speed and stuff, in terms of just, being able to focus on minimal food, and with all these different things going through our brains, and, androgens that, a lot of people take stimulate our brains in a way that, makes it more difficult to calm down. So I think this sort of influence, and why I wanted to bring you onto my podcast, and I think that was very powerful, is because, bodybuilders, we need this type of stuff to be able to stay stable. If we're going to be doing all this kind of stuff that's constantly driving us into this sympathetic state, we need to at least have the knowledge to understand how to, take ourselves down and calm down. I don't know how much experience, you have with people like that. I mean, obviously we've been friends for a long time, but I guess, what are your thoughts on that word vomit I just had?
Yeah, for sure, man. I work with a lot of type A people, like who are trying to do exactly what you're talking about. Like they're not wired for relaxation naturally, like whether it be like these beliefs that were ingrained in them by their family or whatever it is. So that ability to like take a breath and be like, actually, no, I'm going to chill out for a minute and meditate, like, is very difficult. You know what I mean? So that's why, like I'll be working with clients and, during the session, sometimes will be the only time they do the meditation for the entire week, because they know, and they're like, oh my God, that was so good. Like, that helped like so much, whatever. I feel great. But they don't want to do it for themselves because they're more comfortable in that state of fucking alertness, like extreme alertness, to almost panic. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, go, 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 go. And they're like, no, I don't want to get out of this. Like, even though it's like it may be hurting me and it's like my head hurts and I'm stressed and whatever. It's like people are more comfortable in the state which they spend the most time in, right? So that's like, if you are constantly stressed, you're not going to want to be not stressed because you won't be comfortable there. Or if like you're constantly depressed, you're constantly sad or angry, like you're not going to want to be happy. You're not going to like want to feel good because you don't know how to be there. It's uncomfortable for you, right? So you're going to constantly gravitate back towards that space which you know how to be in. So that's why it's just like little by little, all the time, you get yourself more comfortable with being in that state of like peace and comfort, relaxation, where like for me, I can access it immediately. Like, I've been there so much where it's like, for me, anytime I need a quick reset, like if I made my coffee too strong or like whatever it is, and like I'm like buzzing, I'm like, all right, wait a second. And I just like close my eyes, let the pressure drop out of my forehead. Like I hold a lot of pressure there, and like let my eyes just like close heavy, take a breath, and like I'm there, bro. Like everything, like I'm chilling now. You know what I mean? Like, so I know how to get there because I've been there so many times. So like the more that you do it, the more comfortable you get with that space, the easier it will be to access, and the less resistance there will be to hit it. So yeah, guys, like however you want to do it, however you want to get there. I know it might feel like you don't have enough time or whatever, but another trick that I use with all my clients, like put a fucking timer on. It's like, if you can look at yourself in the mirror and literally say, I don't have 1 minute right now, like you're lying, first of all. And like, you're just, like fucking put the timer on. You always have a minute to calm down, to get like super clear. I love the like Stoic philosophy. It's sick. Like I know, Elon, you read Meditations, right? Marcus Aurelius Meditations, like really powerful book. And I really admire the way that the Stoics approach life, because they are for massive action. They are for creating change. They are for doing hard work, but they're all about doing it in a decisive and like temperate manner. Like everything, they're not making decisions emotionally. They're not, like flying off the hinge. Like if they're going to decide to kill somebody, they're going to do it because that's what they want to do. It's intentional. It's heavily intentional. So when you live in this parasympathetic state, you're more likely to make emotional decisions that you may potentially regret in 10 minutes or like, whatever, a week or however long it takes, a couple of years, whatever. Where when you're operating, I'm sorry, I don't know what I just said. If you're making decisions from the sympathetic state, that's when you're going to be acting emotionally. When you're making decisions from this parasympathetic state, more relaxed state, you'll be more intentional with what you do.
So we're talking a lot about meditation, and I think that, that's a good like place to end there on the meditation aspect. So that's like, building positive habits that people struggle with. So another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, if you have a little bit more time, is like, vices, basically. Like, how do people get away from, because, being able to implement meditation is great, but if you are, addicted to porn, or you're addicted to alcohol or smoking or whatever, it might not make that big of a difference if you still have these vices. You know what I mean? So what do you think about vices? Like, how can you help people get away from their vices? Do you think that, it's normal to have vices, or do you think that we should live without them? And what are the most dangerous vices that you come across?
Mm-hmm. Great questions. Okay. So everyone has vices. Everyone has vices, like whatever they are, they're going to differ from person to person. But we all have a way that we choose to escape, or these self-sabotage practices. And when I was in my yoga teacher training, they said choose two. That's like that's what one guy came in, he was doing a lecture and he was like, just choose two. And I was like, that's great. I love that. Like, it's just like super simple, but you have to think about it. It's like when I take a new client on, I'm not going to immediately tell them like, you have to stop smoking today. Like you have to stop drinking today. Like whatever, like that's not what I do. I have my vices for sure. Like, and I'm all about balance and like that like tantric view of like experiencing this like human body to its fullest. You know what I mean? So like all about trying new things, experimenting and whatever. But again, it's about being totally honest with yourself and doing that audit and saying like, is this getting in the way of like my mission, of my growth? Like, am I feeling pulled apart? The reason that I look at personal development holistically is because like when you can sync up all the different areas of your life, like so they're cohesive and coherent and they're supporting your mission, right? Like when you have that one point where it's like, whatever it is that you are here for, what is your duty, your personal mission statement, like when you can work to get all those areas of your life like synchronized and supporting you in that way, then it's like, you're a fucking powerhouse. You can't be stopped. And sometimes that means like having a social life that like you go out and you drink and you release, because it can't just be like go, 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 go all the time. So I'm not going to tell you to put the bottle down. Like if it's something that's like healthy recreation, you know what I mean? But there are certain times when like there's red flags where you say, okay, like this is really destructive and standing in the way. And, like I just had a client, pour out all their fucking booze, like down the drain on camera with me. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, all right, like you're telling me that this is a problem, right? So again, you just need the kick in the ass to take action. Cause like, you're not going to be able, like, it's just so funny, like the look on their face, like when I was like, all right, like take me to the booze. Like you're telling me that you're not going to drink it, right? Like, let's make sure, so we do that, when somebody decides that they're ready. I'm not going to tell anybody to like cut out their vices. I will show them that their vices may be getting in the way of their goals. But until like they are ready to make that change personally, there's nothing that I can do. I don't babysit them. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that I can do, but it's like, if you're going to come to me with this, then we'll put an action plan together for how to stop it. Right. And as far as like those accountability measures, it's like, yeah, you put things in place and it's like, ideally it's not only me, you find a support system where it's like, rather than whether if it's porn, right? Like rather than, like turning on, anytime you're going to turn on, like you go on a porn website, you're about to jerk off, whatever. It's like, no, you have to like, you got to text another guy instead. And it's like, at that time, it's like, even if you go and continue doing, like you're going to go jerk off and watch porn still, like you still, before you do that, have to text somebody, like your sponsor, your support system, like whatever. And like, maybe it's me, like in that situation, if you don't have somebody else like to do that for you. Or same thing, if you're going to take a drink, like whatever it is, like you put that check in place that requires that it is intentional, like it's like, all right, I have now like had to sober up for a second and I'm not in this like addicted state. And if I still want to do it after I send that text message, like fine. But like, that's just like something that you can use to start weaning yourself off. Another thing is just like taking yourself out of environments like that will make it like really accessible. So like rather than like keeping a head stash of weed like in the house, like if you smoke too much weed and it gets in the way of your productivity, it's like then you're only buying fucking, like Dubs or dime bags. You know what I mean? You're not buying an eighth, like you're not buying like an ounce. You're not buying like a bunch of weed to like keep in your house. It's like every time you want it, you have to make the decision to do it. So little things like that go a really long way. And also just like knowing that my client, like they're going to talk to me the next week and they know they're going to ask me like that, I'm going to ask them like what's going on. I've seen some incredible transformations, like people overcoming vices. Mind blowing. Yeah. Like you can do it if you want to, but you're not going to do it until you decide to,
So, cannabis just became legal in New York and, 420 legalized. I'm all about legalizing all the drugs, but, cannabis is something that a lot of people struggle with also. And it's something that a lot of people are addicted to, maybe not physically, but psychologically using it every day. You know, I never was a big user of cannabis ever. Never really the type of guy to constantly be smoking weed or anything like that. But during the pandemic, I found that, you know, I was using THC more than I probably should have been to try to escape from the way that I was feeling and the anxiety that I had of just simply being trapped in my house. You know what I mean? And there is no way to, whereas before I would go out and, you know, have a meal or go out and do something social, I don't just simply don't have the option to do that. So I turn to, you know, getting high. Right. And I'm sure that's been a problem for a lot of people during the pandemic. And I've definitely, you know, became conscious to that. My girlfriend told me, hey, like, you know, you're not really present because you're always high when you're not working. I wouldn't do it, obviously not during work, because I don't want it to impact my work. But as soon as work is over, my demarcation for work being over was taking my THC. You know what I mean? And so, but then again, now it's become legalized and, you know, it's medicinal. And that's kind of how I was rationalizing it to myself, that like, hey, this, you know, is healthy in a sense, right? This is a healthy way to relax. So what do you think about, like, you know, is there a proper way to use cannabis, especially now that it's becoming legalized more? Like, is it something that, you know, people can use recreationally, or do you see it always becoming a negative habit? Like, where can people, how does someone properly utilize something like that?
Yeah. Um, okay. So like, it's great for recreation for those who use it medicinally. Also, it's like, yeah, you know, listen to your doctor. I'm not a fucking doctor. Like, I can't tell you like when it's like when you need cannabis. Like, I'm never going to tell somebody like start using, you know, to treat whatever. But like a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of my clients, basically are self-medicating. Like they're like, oh yeah, like I don't want to take my medication, like I don't want to do this, like I'm super anxious or I'm depressed or I'm this or that. And like that's like really like when I smoke like a lot, I'll just smoke myself into a fucking stupor. You know, like that's something that I know a lot of people struggle with, is like choosing pot like over like whatever their medicine that they're supposed to be taking, or like rather than going to a doctor to like see what's wrong with them or whatever. So like, you know, I think that again, it's like you just have to put those boundaries on it. Where the facts of the matter are like your brain is going to be impacted by that cannabis, like, you know, for the next week after you smoke it, right? Like it takes like whatever it is. I don't know if it's like 5 days or whatever, like to reset more or less, like effectively in the brain. But it's this relationship of like highs and lows that, you know, fog and clarity that like, you know, you continue to go through. And sometimes like there are a lot of like functional smokers, people who do smoke at work, who like, yeah, like it helps me work, like I'm more focused, you know, whatever. You know, and everyone's different. So I'm not telling you like what you can or can't do, but like when you're dependent on a substance to get anything done, like whether that is relaxing or being productive, like you just want to mitigate as many of those relationships as possible and like, you know, find out how to cultivate that energy from within. Right. So if you're kicking back and using it recreationally, it's just like pay attention to like what you're feeling when you decide to use it, you know. Is it like, are you escaping, right? Like what are you uncomfortable feeling that is like making you seek out this numbing like high, and sit with that. It's fucking hard. And then also just like find another ritual. Like for a lot of people, it's been like years and years and years of cannabis use where it's just like, oh yeah, this is what I do. Like, you know, at this time during the day, like when I'm done with work, I smoke a joint or whatever. So it's like, okay, so you have a ritual, right? So it's about creating new rituals, like whether that be, you know, again, like going to the gym, going to like get a massage. Like you can go get like, you know, like one of those Asian foot spas for like, you know, $15. Like go, you know, go get a foot massage, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's like a number of things that you can do, like take like a really nice shower, like make a cup of tea, like do whatever you want to do. If it's not like, you know, a vice the thing is with pot, like it's not usually like people are like trying to be bad and get fucked up, like with like cocaine and alcohol. Like usually like you can't tell somebody, oh, instead of drinking alcohol, have a cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't work. But like because like people are usually smoking pot like to kick back and relax and whatever, you can like find a new way to ritualize that behavior that will take like intentional work, and then just put the boundaries on it. Like I'm only gonna smoke on the weekends. You know, if you realize that it's like getting in the way of your relationship, like okay, if anybody's telling you that your drug use or your substance use is like getting in the way of you taking care of like your duties, like you immediately have to step back and be like, is that true? Like, you know, because you're not going to want to acknowledge that. Like you're always going to want to be like, I'm good. But it's like, if your girl's telling you like, hey, you're high all the time, like you need to do something about that. Like, oh, like maybe you're right. You know, for me, like I know that like sometimes I drink too much, you know, and like I don't drink all the time. Like I don't drink every day or whatever, but like sometimes like when I get loose and I'm at a party, I'm feeling good, like whatever, like I'll like let it slide a little bit and I'll have a few too many drinks and like, you know, step outside of myself. I do so much work on being the best version of myself all the time, right? That like when I go out and I have a few too many drinks and I do something that like is dishonoring like who I am, like the man that I want to be, like I feel like shit, you know, like for a little while after that. So like, you know, that's something that I'm being intentional about right now. Like when I go out now, I'm not drinking hard liquor. Like I'm only drinking wine or beer, you know, like it's too easy to get fucked up on liquor. So, you know, that's like, you just like put those little checks into place that will help you moderate your behavior.
So I want to ask you about a few more things. Something we did together was going to a float tank, and it's something that you introduced me to. And I had an interesting experience in the float tank. And I think that so basically just what happened to me was that I went in the float tank for the first time and I completely forgot where I was and became like delusional. And the people at the float center had to like basically pull me out of the float tank, and like they were trying to let me know by turning on the lights and like playing the music and being like, hey man, like your hour is done. But I was like so deep in the float and like that I didn't realize what was going on, I guess, or that it was over. I kind of even forgot where I was or whatever. So I thought the float tank was a really interesting, out of body experience, and something that, we did completely sober. So I was curious, have you kept up with floating, or, what do you think about using float tanks and where can they be used for personal development?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, man, that was a funny day. Um, so yeah, I have continued floating, and I recommend it to a lot of people. Like, it's one of like probably my most popular gifts. Like, anytime like that, there's somebody that I gotta get a gift for. Like, I love to send them to a float tank because it's a really novel experience. Like, so for those of you guys who don't know, like a float tank, another word for it is like a sensory deprivation tank. And basically, you go into this bathtub, like or like a pod that's fully closed in. The water is exactly at skin temperature with like thousands of pounds of Epsom salt in it. So you just like float completely effortlessly. And the barrier between your skin and the water and the air like dissolves. So like you start to lose track of your physical body basically in this space, and it's pitch black. So it's very interesting. Basically, you put in earplugs and everything. You cut off all your senses, and when you cut out distraction like that, you are left with you and your mind, and it can induce hallucinations for some people. It can also just induce like extreme relaxation and like trigger brain waves that will, help you to just to rest and restore. So it's a restorative practice that a lot of athletes use because like it's great for muscle repair. It's great for like, just like stress relief and relaxation. Takes you to this like meditative state. Like it's just one of those things that kind of gets you there like a little bit quicker than you could maybe get to if you were on your own. And it's like always a very spa like atmosphere. It's really super chill. I think it's really great for just like a self-care practice to be like, me time is really important. Like anytime, like we're always socializing, whether it's on social media with our family, friends, partners, whatever, uh, business partners, like it's like you need to cut out some time to just be alone. And like that's where the good work happens. When you can just be alone with yourself, like, and connect with like, who am I, like outside of what everybody else thinks of me. It's an opportunity to do that. And some people, it's really intense and they don't want to go back and they don't want to do it because they're not like necessarily comfortable being alone with their thoughts. But it's great work in that sense. Like, it's the same thing with like psychedelic medicine. Like sometimes like people say like, oh, like that sucked, I had a bad trip, like I don't want to do that. But it's like, okay, well, it's only a bad trip if you didn't get anything out of it. You know what I mean? Like if you sat with yourself and you were uncomfortable, it's like, so reflect on that, do the integration, like find out why you were uncomfortable. And some people don't want to do that work. So like if you don't want to do that, then like fine. Now I have some people who also go there. It's like, well, some of my best friends like are not doing conscious work whatsoever. Like don't give a shit about it, like even in the slightest bit. And they literally just like go to the float tank or like go to the rub and tug like every other week. You know what I mean? Like they're like, some days they'll go to the float tank, some days they go to the rub and tug, and they treat them pretty much the same thing. It's just like, they just chill out like in the float tank, and it's very relaxing. So everyone gets something different out of it. You don't have to go pitch black. You can leave the music on. You can turn the lights on. Like, you can, most places like moderate it like however you want to. But like the true float experience means like, sensory deprivation. And yeah, man, it's powerful.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience for me and something that I want to do again. It's kind of expensive. Like, so that's kind of what's been the thing stopping me from consistently going. And I'd rather spend that money on like a massage. For me, I personally, I really like massages. And I find that to be like the most best bang for your buck in terms of relaxation, and just because it really gives you, because it's like when you go to the massage, it's like you have no choice but to relax. Another person is touching you, but it's not in an appropriate way. So there's no guilt, there's no like negative feelings, there's no sexual feelings, there's no anything, but just like getting, pulled around and like, whatever. So I just personally, I really like massages, and it's definitely, one big reason why I want to move to Thailand is the regular, access to cheap massages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
man. Same thing down here. There's like pretty much you get like I don't know how much it costs in Thailand, but like, you can get an hour massage like all over the place for like $35, which is pretty great. But yeah, man, like that's like it's really great as well. Like, I have an acupuncturist at home also, and like I don't know really anything about like acupuncture therapy. Like I know like a little bit about like the Chinese medicine, like meridians of energy and like all that kind of stuff, but not enough to be like, oh yeah, like that's why I'm going to acupuncture. I go to acupuncture for the physical experience. So like it's before I get the needles put in, right? Like she's just like gives the most incredible massage. Like it's so good. So like have that body work done and just like have someone who really like knows what they're doing. I mean, like I've also had some shit massages too. You know what I mean? Like, and I paid a lot of money for them also. Like I remember one time, like I got like a gift, like a couples massage thing for like, I paid like $100 per person or something like that. And and it was like, what was that? Like you just like rubbed me, you like touched me and caressed me for an hour. And like,
yeah. No, those are the worst. You want them to really like get in there and really like hurt you a little bit. You know what I mean? That's kind of where some of the release comes from. You know what I mean? Like that's why I really like the Thai massage, because they dig their knees into you, they pull you around, they really, and then they give you a little bit of rubbing and making you feel nice. But like it needs to have a little bit of that pain also in order to, bring the whole experience full circle. If it's just like, rubbing your arm like this, like, all right, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't take any skill really.
yeah, dude. I've never done the Thai massage, but now I'm remembering like what it looks like. I feel like I've seen like pictures, like like I think when I was in college, I was looking at doing like a Thai massage course or something like that, and I'm remembering like the pictures of the what a Thai massage looks like, and it's pretty intense, like very very physical. But you know what we're talking about right now, and thinking about like the float tank versus massage, it's just like calling me back to like the importance of the physical body, and like, you know, satisfying the physical body before you try to satisfy the mind, right? So like in pretty much like every discipline, from like, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like traditional psychology, to like yogic philosophy, like the koshas, like the five energetic bodies, like, you know, everyone says like you have to deal with your physical needs before you move on like to the needs of the mind, right? So the thing about massage that can actually allow for like a spiritual breakthrough or like mental awakening or whatever, is like, yeah, like the tension, your body is taken care of. You don't have to worry about your fucking body anymore because like they got you, you know? So like now you can just like let your mind relax and, you know, take that tension away from the mind as well. So super powerful tools for like, you know, personal growth as well. You know, like always make sure you take care of your body.
So one of the last things I want to ask you about is social media. You know, obviously we work on social media. Everyone's on social media, no matter where they work. You know, been a lot of documentaries, like this new documentary, I think The Social Dilemma or whatever, about like how social media affects people and stuff like that. What do you think about social media and like mental health and like FOMO and stuff like that? Like, how do you see social media impacting the way that people feel about themselves and their personal growth? And what kind of parameters would you recommend for people to take when it comes to their social media use?
Yeah, dude. It's definitely like the bane of our generation. You know, it's really hard to like not be involved. For a long time, actually, I took a break. I took a long social media break. And in many ways, I had like a dumb phone. Like I literally like ditched the iPhone and got like a dumb phone. And in many ways, that was like the most productive year of my life. I got a lot of work done, and it was very fulfilling. I was very present. I was very happy. And I wasn't worried about what was going on somewhere else constantly. You know what I mean? And then I tuned back in, and this fucking phone, it always lets you know that something cooler is happening somewhere else where you are right now. You know what I mean? And like, I'm in Tulum. I'm in like one of like the coolest places in the world. You know what I mean? And it's like I still get that. You know what I mean? Like people, I follow all of these, you know, partially for my work, and like, you know, I want to stay up on this stuff and whatever. But it's like it's people just like, yeah, and accounts posting shit of just like these really novel experiences that, listen, like here's the thing, it always looks better on social media. Like it's like these things are being built now. Like in Tulum, there was a music festival here, like, you know, back when I first got down here, and you could tell going through the experience, like that the structures and even like the shows, like the way that they had designed the stages and um, like where they were holding them, how many people they let in, it was all designed for the social media capture, for content capture. And they didn't give a shit about like the live experience. They wanted everyone else to feel like they missed out. You know what I mean? And when I would watch, I was there. I was there for all 5 days of the festival,
But
and
you're
I watched.
jealous of other people that were there.
No, my point is, I watched the recap video at the end. I would watch their social media stories. I was like, this is not what's going on. You know what I mean? Like I'm here, like this is not what's happening, you know? So there's this like seduction, there's this constant seduction going on, like that like is happening on social media, that they're like telling you like, oh yeah, like we're gonna make you come 5 times, like we're gonna like it's gonna be like the best sex of your entire life. And then you get there and like it's just like, oh yeah, this was great, I came, but like it wasn't, you know, like it was not what I was promised on social media. You know what I mean? Like, so there's this social media creates this constant like chasing the dragon thing where like you always want that better experience, that larger than life, more than reality, where you start to prize like these fabricated experiences like more than what happens in real life. So, you know, it's definitely like harmful in that way. As far as, you know, personal like identity and, you know, what we're expecting out of ourselves. Yeah, man. Like, you know, you can't judge yourself against what you see on the phone, because it's just like, you know, 90% of the time it's not true. And even when it is true, it's just like whatever, like it's all good. That's their life. This is my life. You know what I mean? You gotta learn to love your life. You know what I mean? Like you gotta drop in and like to have as many like experiences as you can have that will like command your attention in the present, you know. And that's like what I'm always trying to help my clients cultivate is presence, right? It's like show up in your life fully there and you will enjoy yourself. I don't care if you live in Iowa and like never leave the farm or like whatever it is. It's like you can find the universe in a grain of sand. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to literally go do everything. Like this whole FOMO thing, it's like you can run around trying to do all of these things. And most people that I know that do them, like I've met a lot of like mega influencers or like, and like really like, you know, just like these people who just spend their whole lives like traveling, and I watch their Instagrams and like every day, like it's like they're in, you know, Dubai, they're in the Maldives, like they're in this place, they're in that place. And it's like, they're not fucking happy. You know what I mean? They're so jaded and disenchanted with life, where it's like you go meet like a dude who's never left his little town, but he loves his work, does what he does, and he's satisfied, you know? So like, whatever. It's like, it's a fucking lie is all I would really have to say about social media. It's a great tool if you know how to use it, you know, you just got to put boundaries on it. And you have to understand that like, it's not the same thing as real-time human experience. And like last night at my men's group, somebody said something. They were like, you know, what would you like be willing to give your life for? Like, what are you willing to die for, right? And to me, like human to human connection, real time experience is like something that's so valuable to me. And like we see like this constant trend away from that, where it's only going to get more and more commodified. You know what I mean? Like to have these experiences in real life, to be the person who's at the show rather than like in like the VR version of the concert or whatever. It's like, you know, human to human connection where you can touch each other, smell each other, like feel each other. Like, oh man, like that's what makes me go. That's why I'm here, because I can do that with people. I was so sick of living on my phone in the pandemic up in New York and like having all of my experiences through a screen. It was just like empty and I was depressed and I was like, I need to go like touch some people, you know? So I've been touching people. It's great.
I hate looking like the phone is, you know, it's always like, you know, pick me up, like, you know, scroll through the explore page, like, you know, check out what's going on. And like, I started to notice that it was really impeding on my like cardio. Cause I do my cardio now, I'm on a diet and stuff like that. And like, I try to be like really present and focused during my cardio, because I find that when I do that, I push myself way harder and I lose weight and I drop way more fat when I really push myself on the bike and like make it a workout, not just like, you know, I'm on the bike on my phone scrolling through Instagram, as opposed to like I'm on the bike, like breathing in through my nose and out through my nose and like just focusing on my breath so I can go like not as fast as I can, but like at a solid, good pace that I wouldn't be able to do if I'm like this, you know what I mean? Like I need to hold on to the handlebars and really go. And like when you can lock into, you know, doing cardio like that, it brings you to another level, like the endorphin release. And then when I look at the phone, I don't get the endorphin release from the cardio. I get the endorphin release from the phone. My cardio slacks. And then every time I like slow down on the cardio machine, my mind starts to be like, oh, you're slowing down, like you're losing momentum. Pick up the phone. It'll make the next 10 minutes like way more easy. We can just like breeze through it. You know what I mean? And I have to stop myself and like put the phone away. So I'd have to physically get off the bike and go to the phone in order to pick it up, or else I'm going to do that. And also I've ruined so many workouts by like being on the phone, in the middle between sets, and then losing focus, and you just lose that, like, everything. And, when we used to work out together, and I used to work out in college and stuff, I never even considered looking at my phone. Like, phone goes in the locker, it's beast mode time. You know what I mean? And that's how I got into training, and that's how I like love to train. But, as time goes on and you become more jaded, and training becomes less exciting, and the phone becomes more exciting, and it just sucks the life out of anything that you're doing in that moment. And I've been really trying to put it away, put it on airplane mode, and just leave it away from me. It's like, it's worse than freaking, like, I would be more present being fucking high as hell, as opposed to like having my phone in my hand. You know what I mean? It's like a drug.
Man. It takes away from everything. Sometimes my girlfriend and she actually started this little practice that we do, but we'll just, when we go out on the weekends, we'll both leave our phones at home. And, we always have a way better time. Like, just like the best nights that we've ever had down here are when we leave our phones at home, like, indisputably, like the nights that we will never forget for the rest of our lives. We left our phones at home because we were present. You know what I mean? We were actually there. We weren't looking for something else to do. And like, the amount of times throughout the night that I go to my pocket to go, like, be like, oh, let me see if this place is open. Like, oh, like, and I always like need, like, oh, like, let me get directions. Let me do this. Let me do that. It's like, nah, like, you don't actually, the phone is a convenience. You don't actually need it for that stuff. You can figure it out. It's all good. And you're going to connect with people. It's the same thing. It's like, rather than either of us, if there's a silence between my girlfriend and I at the bar, it's like, rather than getting on our phones, like, we start talking to the other person next to us. You know what I mean? And then, like, now we have new friends for our entire lives because we decided to leave our phones at home. And yeah, man, it's like you do all this like social media networking, like the social networks and whatever, but it's like, do your social networking in person. You know what I mean? Like, there's people, like, and I understand that a lot of people are like locked down right now, but whatever. A lot of people aren't either. A lot of people are going out, doing their thing, and sitting on their fucking phones while they're out. So, if you guys feel like it, the next time that you go out, leave your phone at home, give it a shot and see what happens. See how many more people you meet, whether you're single or in a relationship or whatever. Like, you are going to bring a different energy to every conversation because you are totally present. And then everyone you meet has to follow you on Instagram. They have to take out their phone and follow you rather than be like, oh, can I have your Instagram? It's like, nah, so then you got a guaranteed follower also.
All right, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. We're going on 2 hours. I really appreciate your time. And do you have any closing statements? If you had to say one thing to somebody listening right now that, relates to your core competency, like they're feeling lost in life, they need more direction, what advice would you give to them? And then give us your plugs, where we can find you and how people can get in touch with you to hire you.
Yeah. Guys, listen, just as far as something you can implement immediately, right? Because that's what I'm all about. I'm about actionable tools, things that you can do. Right now, take that inventory of your daily practices. What do you do from the moment that you wake up in the morning until the moment you go to sleep? How much of that is dead time, and how can you convert it to a lifetime to be in support of like your mission? Where are you wasting your energy, leaking energy, right? So do that, and then just be completely honest with yourself. Be like, okay, now how would it look if it was optimized, right? And you just have to be comfortable, like, saying, like, I'm doing something wrong right now that I want to change. Like, you have to be ready to say that. You have to be ready to be wrong. You have to be ready to change what you're doing. And you guys can do that yourself. You don't need me. Like, I would encourage you all to take that initiative alone. If you need help, I got you. And you can find me at Brendan__Morgan on Instagram. And my website is www.brendanmorgan.org.
All right, Brendan. Thank you so much. This is episode 22 of the Bodybuilding Lifestyle Podcast. Peace.